Dreyfuss, will you come in, please?
Yes, Mr. Murray, I'll be right in.
Here, read this.
What's the matter with it?
That price quotation, it's wrong.
Oh, I see.
If I hadn't cut it, that error would have cost us $300.
Well, let me find out who typed this.
Wait a minute. That's not the only reason I brought you in here. I want to know what's happened to our stenographic department. That's not the first error. I've been getting them for weeks. Their work is getting sloppier and sloppier. It's full of erasures. The general appearance is simply disgraceful. Why, look at that. I'd be ashamed to sign my name to a letter like that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Murray. I didn't realize things were this bad. I'll try to find out what the trouble is.
All right, let me know what it is.
Yes, sir. Look here a moment, girls. Who typed this quotation to Mid-City Supply Company?
Oh, I did that.
Didn't you proofread it?
Why?
You made an error of $300.
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis.
I'm afraid that's not enough to satisfy Mr. Murray. He's on the warpath. He says your work in here has been getting worse and worse, and he wants to know why.
Well, you tell Mr. Murray if we had more help here, the quality of work wouldn't be so bad. We don't have time to do good work here. And we certainly don't have time to proofread our work very carefully.
But you used to get the work out without any trouble.
Yes, before you moved Gloria up into purchasing.
Oh, Gloria.
One girl makes a lot of difference.
Well, I'll have to see about getting someone to replace her. Mr. Murray, I'm afraid the real trouble is those girls are overworked. We moved Gloria up into purchasing about 6 weeks ago, and we'll have to have another girl to replace her.
Oh, great Scott, man. Here I am racking my brain trying to figure ways to cut costs, and you come in here asking me to hire more people.
Oh, I'm sorry, but...
Look at this. This is a chart showing what's been happening to profits and costs over the last several years. For a long time, both were going up. We were getting better prices for our products to compensate for increased costs, but not anymore. Prices are going down, and competition won't let us raise them. But costs are still going up. What are we going to do?
Cut costs.
Exactly. That's the only thing we can do. I've been after purchasing, production, everybody, trying to get them to pare their costs. And you come in here asking me to increase our administrative costs.
Well, I don't know what else we can do. Those 4 girls are really doing the work of 5. Their work is bound to be sloppy, and they're bound to make errors.
All right. We'll hire another girl, but remember, if these 2 curves cross, both of us better start looking for other jobs.
Well, I'll go and call the employment agencies.
All right. You find anybody who seems right, bring her in, let me have a talk with her.
Yes, sir. I'm very sorry, but we really need someone with more experience. Are there any more?
No, sir, that's all.
Are all the girls as inexperienced as the ones I've seen?
I don't know, Mr. Davis.
Well, try another employment agency.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, George. I'll see that you get these stencils, ribbons, and carbons by the end of the week.
Good.
Now, there's one more thing that I'd like to discuss with you.
Electric typewriters again?
George, I've just come from Perry Brothers. They've been getting the most wonderful results with the new Electri-conomy.
Jim, you couldn't have picked a worse time. Why, Murray's tearing his hair out now trying to reduce costs. I'd be thrown out of his office bodily if I even suggested such a thing.
Well, how about letting me suggest it to him?
Are you crazy?
Now, look, George, you're trying to reduce costs. That's right up my alley. Now, it's a well-known fact that office personnel need the best working tools to produce high-quality, low-cost results, just like in a factory. And there's more that I'd like to tell him.
Well, you'll be wasting your time, but I'll call him.
I'm not interested in saving money next year or the year after. I'm interested in saving money now.
That's exactly what I want to help you to do, Mr. Murray. Now, here are a few of our users in your field who've been able to measure actual dollar savings through the use of the Remington Electri-conomy typewriter. This one, for instance, has been able to cut typing costs in half since they purchased their Electri-conomy machines. They were cutting 2,200 stencils a week on their former machines. Now they're cutting 4,500 a week on the new ones.
Where'd you get that information?
From the customer himself. He wrote our representative.
Oh.
Now here's another firm, manufacturer of just about your size, who needed more legible carbon copies. We have many more testimonials just like these in our files, Mr. Murray. They all stress the increased production and savings in office costs made possible by the Remington Electri-conomy typewriter. Now, let's look at it this way. It costs you about $2,500 a year in salary, rent, supplies, and equipment to operate one typing station.
That's right.
An Electri-conomy typewriter, amortized over a 5-year period, amounts to just a little more than 3% annually of the total investment in a typing station. Now, with Electri-conomy, it's possible to increase the production of that station by 10, 20, or even 50%.
Why?
Well, chiefly because the Electri-conomy typewriter requires much less effort to operate. Now, this results in greater speed for longer periods, fewer errors, and better operator morale.
Morale? What's that got to do with it?
Quite a bit, Mr. Murray. If a typist feels that she's being given every possible consideration by her company, including the latest modern equipment, she will probably be much more conscientious about doing a good job.
All right, Mr. Barnes. I'm willing to grant you that in some cases, electric typewriters will increase production, improve morale, do all the things you say they will. But that doesn't mean they'll do all those things for me.
Of course it doesn't. And the only way that you can find out what they'll do for you is to let us make what we call the Electri-conomy test.
What's that?
We'll take any typing station in the office that you select. By utilizing this work simplification analysis form, we will determine exactly the nature of the typewritten work performed. That will give us the basis for selecting the Electri-conomy typewriter with exactly the specifications required by that station. I'll bring in this machine, leave it with the typist long enough for her to make a thorough test, with no obligation to you, of course. I will demonstrate the machine so that she'll have a complete understanding of its operation. And I'll leave with her a copy of this booklet, which was prepared especially for typists making this test. As the title implies, the average typist can make the transition from manual to Electri-conomy typing in 15 minutes or less. Then, after the Electri-conomy test, I will ask you to fill out a brief questionnaire regarding its merits. Now, this will give you the opinion of one of your own employees on the performance of the Electri-conomy typewriter in a particular job.
That sounds reasonable enough.
Now, at which one of the typing stations would you like to have me conduct the test?
Well,
Perhaps one of the girls in the stenographic pool, or over in purchasing.
no, I don't want them interrupted just now. You'd better use my secretary,
All right. And her name is Miss...
Cranston.
Now, Miss Cranston, how about carbons?
Well, sometimes I need as many as 12.
That means 2 typing.
Naturally.
And hectograph masters?
A few.
Stencils?
Occasionally.
I wonder if I could have samples of them.
Certainly.
Now, let's see. Correspondence 70%, tabulation 10%, forms 10%, cards 10%. Is that right?
That's right.
Thank you. I'll have your Electri-conomy typewriter in the morning. Now, gentlemen, before I show Miss Cranston how to use the machine, I'd like to give you an idea of some of the benefits that you can expect from it. Now, actually, the introduction of the Electri-conomy typewriter represents one of the most important forward steps in the business world since Remington introduced the typewriter itself back in 1873. And today, Electri-conomy is a product of advanced engineering research by our laboratories of scientific development. Now, Mr. Murray, you said that you were primarily concerned with getting neater work and better carbons, as well as increasing your typing production.
That's right.
Well, here's what I mean. A well-typed letter. Now, you may ask, just how does electrification produce this kind of typing? Very simply. Do you see this electric light switch? Now, I can either hit it or touch it gently. The result is the same. And it's the same with the Electri-conomy typewriter. A light touch or a heavy touch makes absolutely no difference. All type impressions are exactly the same. The result is a uniform appearance on the typewritten page. Now, the electrified shift also contributes to the neater appearance. There will be no floating capitals. The positive action of the electric shift ensures perfect alignment. Now, we come to the matter of better carbons. By simply moving this impression control, the typist can increase the number of clear, legible carbon copies with no increased effort. And if you want a particularly large number of carbons, we have this interchangeable platen feature. You can simply remove the everyday writing platen and substitute a special platen for heavy manifold. This feature also makes it easier to clean the platen, as well as the paper trough and the feed rolls. But there are still other features which contribute to better carbon. So you can see how this rigid carriage construction means clean, sharp impressions and good alignment. And that, gentlemen, covers the features which make for neater work and better carbons.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. It's been very interesting.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Now, Miss Cranston, there are some operating points that I would like to explain to you.
I'm waiting.
You saw how the starting switch operates.
Like this?
That's right. Now, here's a feature which simplifies the business of cutting stencils. You have 4 positions for your ribbon: red, black, center, and stencil. The center position allows you to get better usage when you use a single colored ribbon.
Good.
Now, when you want to cut stencils, you merely move the indicator to S, and you're ready to start.
I see.
And to make it easy to keep your typeface clean so that you'll get a sharp impression, the top plate slips off like this and goes back on again just as easily.
But there's just one question, Mr. Barnes. How long is it going to take me to get used to this machine?
Much less time than you think, and I'll tell you why. The keyboard is slow, just like the one that you're used to, so there'll be nothing new to learn on that score. The keys have about the same dip, or lead, as on the manual typewriter. Now, in school, you were taught to rest your fingers lightly on the home keys. All right, you can go on doing it. Don't worry, the keys aren't trigger happy. They won't print until they go down this far. And finally, this machine has a standard keyboard arrangement. Every key is in a familiar position.
Not everyone.
Right, your carriage return. And every night at 5 o'clock, you're going to thank your lucky stars that it isn't. This one key is going to save you more work than anything else on the machine.
How?
Well, on your manual typewriter, you reach up here and return that carriage more than 1,000 times a day.
That's right.
On your Electri-conomy, you merely flick this key with your little finger, and presto.
It's magic.
If you will spend just a few minutes going over the simple drills in here and read this instruction book, I think you will feel completely at home with your Electri-conomy typewriter.
I promise. Thanks.
Oh, still here, I see.
Well, Mr. Murray, I've just demonstrated the machine to Miss Cranston. She thoroughly understands it
Yes, sir.
and will be turning out the kind of work that you want in no time at all.
Good. Come in a minute.
To keep you fully informed on just what's happening in your office, I'd like you to have this outline of the test arrangement. And since you're interested in the subject, I think you'll enjoy looking over this booklet.
What is it?
It's a comparison on electric typing versus manual typing. It was prepared by a group of experts on product utilization to give you some idea of the economies possible by using the right typewriter in the right place.
Well, we're interested in economies, all right.
I'll be back to see you in a couple of days.
All right.
Here's that list of accounts, Mr. Murray.
What did we do, get a new mimeograph machine?
No, I cut the stencils on the Electri-conomy typewriter.
I see. Thanks very much.
Now that you've had time to get acquainted with your Electri-conomy typewriter, Miss Cranston, I wonder if you'd mind answering a few questions about it.
I'd be glad to.
First, was the transition accomplished easily?
Yes, quite easily.
And do you think that the standard keyboard helped to make the transition easy?
Certainly. It would have been dreadful if it hadn't been standard.
And now, one final question. Were you able to estimate how much more work you could do with this machine?
Well, frankly, Mr. Barnes, I wasn't. All I know is that I got through my work faster. And I felt a lot better at the end of the day, too. I certainly did remember you at 5 o'clock.
Well, thank you. I hope you'll continue to have occasion to remember me.
I hope so, too.
Mr. Murray, this is what your secretary thinks of the Electri-conomy typewriter.
It is, eh? Well, on the whole, I'd be inclined to agree with it.
You would?
I've noticed the improved appearance of the work. And I don't mind telling you that it's a pleasure to sign my name to a letter like that.
Well, good. I'll be glad to leave the machine right here. You can have the benefit of it from now on.
Well, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Now, wouldn't it be a greater pleasure if the work of your whole office looked like that?
It would, but I'm afraid I can't afford that pleasure.
You know, it's in the stenographic pool where even further economies of electric typing would become apparent.
The only economy I'm interested in now is not to spend any more money than I have to. Now with this one machine, at least I can be sure to get decent work done when I need it. More than that, I'll have to do without.
Well, supposing I make an analysis of each of the typing stations in all of your offices.
I'm afraid it won't do you any good.
All right. But it'll do you some good. It will give you exact information on the age and condition of each machine, what work it's doing, and whether it should continue doing that work or be moved to another job. Now, that would be valuable information for your files, wouldn't it?
It would, but no obligation implied?
No obligation.
Well, in that case...
Now, are there any mechanical functions which don't seem to work very well?
Yes, sometimes the ribbon doesn't reverse.
Let's take a look at it. Oh, yes, reverse not engaging. Anything else?
Sometimes the space bar skips 2 spaces.
Mm-hmm. And that's all?
That's all I can think of.
All right. Well, then your work is about 30% correspondence, 30% forms, and what else?
Well, billing.
May I see a sample of the form?
Sure. Here,
Oh, yes. And what percent of your work is billing?
50%.
Hey, wait a minute, that's too many percent.
Okay, just give me what's left.
All right. Mr. Murray, I've assembled our findings on all of your typing stations into one detailed report.
Yes, thank you.
Here you'll find our recommendations covering your stenographic pool. You'll notice we've suggested the 10-key decimal tabulator for the girl who does so much billing.
I'll keep them for reference.
I hope they'll be of use to you. Thank you again for your cooperation. And incidentally, for your needs, we have no reason to recommend anything but the right machine. You see, we make them all.
Miss Kelly, Mr. Davis tells me he's interviewed some 20 girls over the past 2 weeks, and you're the first one who's impressed him as being competent to handle the job.
Why, thank you, Mr. Murray. I'm delighted. I've been looking everywhere to find a company that uses electric typewriters.
Electric typewriters?
I saw one when I came in.
Oh, that's my secretary that uses one. We don't use them in the stenographic pool.
Oh, I see.
The manuals are good machines.
I'm sure they are. It's just that on my last job, I used an electric, and I guess I'd rather hate to go back to a manual.
Well, what difference does that make?
Oh, it makes a lot of difference. I enjoy my work so much more when I use an electric.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me you don't want the job?
Well, no. But I would like a few days to think it over.
All right, you think it over. And you let Mr. Davis know the first of the week.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Who tacked this invoice to George Sexton Company?
Oh, I did.
Sales department says they can't read the carbons.
Well, I can't help it. I do my best, but still I can't make enough good copies to suit them.
But they've got to be able to read them.
Don't worry, Millie. When we get our electric typewriters, you'll be able to make as many carbons as anybody.
Electric typewriters?
Well, aren't we?
I'm afraid not. We'll just have to get along with what we have for a while.
Well, it won't make any difference to me anyway. My husband's being transferred to Detroit
You're leaving?
next week.
Next week?
He just called me.
Great Scott. Mr. Murray, I'm getting desperate.
What?
Rosalie's husband's being transferred to Detroit, and she's leaving next week.
Rosalie?
Of the typing pool. That means we're going to have to find 2 girls instead of 1.
Can't even find one. How are you going to find 2?
Well, we've got to do something.
Oh, confound it. That girl you sent here yesterday would have been just right for us. But she didn't think she'd be happy because she didn't have an electric typewriter. Imagine that. You got to be happy to work nowadays. When I was a boy, you worked because you had to, and if you didn't like the work, that was just too bad. Nowadays, they got to be happy.
Shall I keep trying?
No. Let me alone. I'll think of something.
Yes, sir.
just trying it out. I wanted to see how it works.
Yes, sir.
Where's that stuff the Remington man left us? That information on the work of our typing station.
That survey?
That's right.
I'll get it for you.
Thanks. Miss Cranston, will you call Remington Rand and have him send over 4 more Electri-conomy typewriters?
4?
This fella Barnes knows what he's talking about. 4 girls with Electri-conomy typewriters ought to be able to handle the work in there without any trouble.
Yes, Mr. Murray.
Oh, and call that girl with the silly hat who was in here yesterday and tell her she can have her electric typewriter.
All right, Mr. Murray.
We want everybody to be happy here, don't we?
Yes, Mr. Murray.
Girls, where is Mr. Davis?
Over in the accounting department.
You'll have to drop everything. This is very important. I've got to have 18 copies of this amended price list to send out to our salesmen tonight. So you'll all have to get busy on it.
I can do it, Mr. Murray.
What?
I'll make the copies for you.
All at once?
Certainly.
Will they be readable?
Of course.
All right, well, do what you think best.
I finally located that girl who was here, Mr. Murray.
Oh, splendid.
She has another job.
What? What, that ingrate? Well, she probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. Put an ad in the paper.
Yes, Mr. Murray.
Here are those amended price lists, Mr. Murray.
Let me see them. Amazing. Didn't think you could read them. Confound it, Davis, why can't everything go right around here for a change? Remember that girl we wanted to hire? The one who wanted to be happy?
Oh, yes.
She got another job. Just when I thought we were getting things straightened out around here.
Well, actually, it doesn't matter, Mr. Murray.
What?
We really don't need another girl. Those 3 girls in the pool are handling the work quite well.
Not long ago you told me 4 girls couldn't handle it.
But they didn't have Electri-conomy typewriters.
Oh.
I placed that ad, Mr. Murray.
Cancel it.
What?
Mr. Barnes is right. The Electri-conomy plan worked out just as he predicted. So we won't need that extra typewriter. So we can come and pick it up.
Yes, Mr. Murray.
Get me Jim Moran. Hello, Jim. This is Murray. I wanted you to know that Davis, our office manager, has just succeeded in cutting our office expenses by $5,000 a year. That's right. Now, I want to know what you fellas at the plant are figuring on doing to cut down expenses.